Hey everyone, Doran Christensen here. Today we're looking at 2 Nephi 2, 17 through 26. That's not very many verses. We've got several lessons, a couple doctrinal masteries in this chapter, so we don't need to feel rushed. We can have a good experience and go slow as specifically we look at this. This lesson can help students appreciate the Savior and His atonement more. That's the bullseye, the target, as they come to understand the fall of Adam and Eve. And so this is the foundation that we're trying to build on. Now, sometimes in these lessons, we're kind of moving towards that and we get towards that idea in the middle or towards the end. But for this lesson, I see it needing to be established right at the front, the beginning of the lesson. And so my comments today are just about the beginnings. For whatever reason, I think of this image of a hanger and a coat. That coat needs a hanger. If we just go to the closet and drop the coat, it just falls. So it needs something to go on. And so this lesson, for it to work, we've got to provide a hanger. Everything for the lesson to fit on, to go on, to stand on. Whether that works for you or not, it makes sense in my head. Let me explain how it works as we begin this lesson. As we start with the foundation. We start with, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not at all, 10 being completely, how much do you feel you understand and appreciate the Savior and His sacrifice for you? Now, as I'm looking in my mind's eye, this isn't I don't know if this is a very exciting start, because students are going to just kind of say, well, I don't know, 4, I sort of do 6. I like something a little bit further down. So if I were trying to establish a hanger, we're going to build it around this quote from Elder Holland, but look at these questions down here. To help students evaluate how much they already know about the fall of Adam and Eve, ask the following questions. What is the fall of Adam and Eve? What affects the fall? How does it fit into the plan? How does it help you understand and appreciate Jesus Christ and His sacrifice for you? I might start class by really trying to establish the need to know more about the fall. So maybe we have students in pairs. Maybe you have a couple students be nominated to come up and be quizzed. Tell students at pre-quiz, but we're going to say, we're going to ask some hard questions and have them answer. What is the fall of Adam and Eve? That's a difficult question just to answer point blank 6 a.m. in the morning. And so have some fun with this and have students kind of wrestle with it, just kind of going cold and say, no worries. We're going to try to figure this out today. Let's look at this quote from Elder Holland and see why we really want to understand the fall a little bit better. And what students will see as they look at this quote, they'll see this hanger come to life. That as I understand the fall of Adam and Eve better, it's going to help me love and appreciate the Savior more. And so this beginning right here really matters. So what we do and finding that principle in the Elder Holland quote is going to provide the hanger for the rest of the lesson to land on, to fit snugly on. And so everything else that we do is going to be centered around that. As we go a little bit further, we're going to have students search in these verses and mark what they find about the consequences of the fall. And so we're going to see, because of those consequences, we need the Savior. Just a note, because we're going to ask some questions about those consequences, I think it's going to be really important to make sure they're listed somewhere. You know how if you ask a question and students don't have everything in front of them, it's going to be difficult. So list these consequences in their journals or on the board, but make it really overt what they find in these verses, so that when you ask these questions, how would you feel if you were Adam and Eve experienced these consequences? These consequences are right there. They're visible. Do you think these effects are good, bad, or both? Why? And they're visible. Just a thought on prepping the questions by having a quick look available. Our next search is going to take us to the doctrinal mastery passage, 225, about Adam fell that men might be and men are, they might have joy. This is a great and happy principle, that the fall is leading us to joy, but specifically, our hanger is going to talk about it's going to draw us closer to Jesus Christ, because Jesus is the source of joy. And so we can't forget the hanger that we've established as we look through these verses. So we're going to highlight that the fall was an essential part, but but we still need help. And that's where we're getting towards the end. As we're looking at verse 26, how do we overcome the fall and feel joy? And the answer to that, as we look also at Moses 5, 10, and 11, is they're going to learn about Jesus and how Jesus can help us with the effects of the fall and how the fall points us to him. That's the hanger that everything rests on. You can see as the lesson wraps up here, after students share things that they've learned, they could revisit the 4 self-evaluation questions from the beginning of the lesson and see how well they can answer them now. I think that's a pretty good idea. If you started with that and it was kind of a pre-test, to now do the post-test where you can have them in pairs again, ask these same questions. But as they answer these questions, I might point them to our hanger, which you may have written on the board or in their journals. This lesson can help you appreciate the Savior and his atonement more as you understand the fall of Adam and Eve. And so encourage students to make sure they're explaining how Jesus and his atonement and joy from 2 Nephi 2:25 fit into their answers to those 4 questions. I hope this is a wonderful experience as students learn more in their heads and their hearts, but most importantly are inclined to come unto the Savior more in their lives.